that meant you stopped training. But for high school athletics, if you're in the red, the body is stressed after 20 minutes. There's mandatory breaks every 40 minutes of each hour, especially if you're in direct sunlight. And if it's in the extreme, they actually suspend practice. So there's mandatory water breaks and breaks built into this. And I know, Tim, you were in band, correct?
Yeah, I was in there through high school and college as well.
Did you
get
guys
that
use
hot
this, or what did you guys use for practicing and for band camp and stuff?
Yeah, they definitely used this for sure. They're at the Penn State Blue Band, go Lions. They had one of these devices, right? And then they were monitoring it. It was our director at the time. He would look at it at the top of his big old, lattice. Whatever you call it, scaffolding, where he would march orders at us. But it's important, right? Because you're putting in that hard work, especially in August. As things get a little bit cooler, it's a little bit better. But a lot of these band people going through the summertime, it's just the same as doing the football stuff or any sort of sport. Not quite as hard. I'm not saying it is, but you're exerting yourself, and you have to make sure you're hydrated, and you have to make sure you're taking into account that heat stress too.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of marathons. People that run are very familiar with this as well, because there's a reason marathons start early in the morning in most cities is because they can avoid the red and black flag criteria. There was an interesting scenario last year. It was the Minneapolis Marathon, I believe. They had storms in the morning, which delayed the start, so it was a safety issue for storms and lightning. But they ended up canceling the marathon after the storms moved out. Not because of lightning and rain, but because the start got delayed so far into the morning that the runners were going to be, especially the lower, let's say trained runners, the amateurs, were going to be running in the peak heating of the day, and it was going to be in the red criteria. So they canceled the marathon for that, and it was a shock to people because, how are you canceling this? It just stopped raining. It's because the delay pushed the start of the marathon back so far that they would be running in the heat of the day. And so it's a really good metric. DOT is using it, Department of Labor. So I think this is something we're going to see more and more, but especially for the parents out there that have kids in football and band practice right now, double check with your trainers in your schools. Make sure they're paying attention to this stuff, because while it's cool right now, they're probably having a great week of practice. When the heat cranks up, it's going to be another issue.
It'll be a factor again next week. It is amazing, though, just to recap, not a factor tonight for Charlotte FC, not a factor tomorrow for the Panthers. Just stay comfy.
And who would have thought that? So, So a lot of sports going on. Hey, stay out of the drizzle. Hope we see the sun tomorrow, Tim. It'll be a Friday, so we'll be happy anyways. But hopefully we'll see the sun, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
More live impact news here on WCNC Plus for the next 2 hours. We're going to start with a ceremony from the president and from the White House, where nearly 100 Purple Heart recipients were honored today, and a man from North Carolina was among them. We're going to get more from the president and the White House. Let's go to this right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Please. Nice crowd. I even hear a young, beautiful voice in the background, and that's good. That makes us all feel young. I want to thank everybody for being here on the 200th day in office. This is 200 days already. Time flies. But we have a country that's the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. A year ago, it was in a lot of trouble. It's the hottest country, and a lot of the people in this room made it that way. Perhaps the most successful and consequential first 200 days, they say, of an administration in history. So let's hope they keep saying it. There they are right there. I hope they keep saying it. But even more importantly, this is also National Purple Heart Day, and we're here to honor and celebrate the unyielding patriotism and grit and devotion to America's Purple Heart veterans is great emotion and great love. The Purple Heart dates back to August 7th, 1782. That's a long time, when General George Washington awarded a heart-shaped purple cloth to 3 soldiers for outstanding gallantry and service in battle. This afternoon, we're joined by dozens of Purple Heart recipients and their families, and just as General Washington did 243 years ago, today we give our everlasting thanks to you and your unbelievable families. We want to thank you very much for being here. It's my great honor. We're also joined by American patriots who love our military and our veterans, including Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. You're doing a great job, Pete. Thank you. We're working hard together. Secretary of Veterans Affairs with 92% approval rating, I hear. It's a record. Doug Collins. Thank you very much, Doug. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She's got a lot of interesting things happening in the last 2 months. A lot of interest. Keep it coming, Tulsi, keep it coming. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, my friend, who I knew a long time ago. He got rid of ISIS in record time. They said it was going to take 4 to 5 years. He did it in 4 weeks. That's when I said, if I get into this again, I'm going to make him the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and that's what happened. Great job, and he did an incredible job in Iran. I want to thank you very much. Great job, General. Deputy Secretary of Energy and Purple Heart recipient, James Danley. James, thank you very much, James. Great job. And we have a Medal of Honor recipient, Captain Paris Davis. Thank you. Where are you? Where might he be? Oh, look at you. You're better looking than I am, I'll tell you that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're also joined by the Marine Corps veteran who co-managed my 2024 campaign, a fantastic talent in many ways after he was wounded in battle for our country in Operation Desert Storm, Chris LaCivetta. So where is Chris? Where is Chris? Chris, stand up, Chris. With your beautiful daughter, Victoria. Thank you very much for being with your father. It's very nice. Every Purple Heart tells a story of courage, sacrifice, and purpose. It speaks of a price paid for the soldier beside you, the country behind you, and the generations of Americans yet to come. And we have some great generations to follow. It's going to happen. Those who wear this medal ran into bullets, faced ferocious bombs, and shed their blood on the field of battle. We will never forget what they did. We will always use them as an example of bravery and courage and strength. And we will also always think, when we look at them, of our great American flag. We want our great American flag to be strong, and it's stronger than ever. Since day one, my administration has used every power we have to fight for those who have fought for America. In 6 months, we have reduced the backlog of veterans' waitings, and that waiting list was very long, Doug, wasn't it? For the benefits, and it's 37%. So it's just, is that all you did, Doug? 37? I don't know. Huh? That's incredible, actually. You're getting tremendous marks, and we appreciate it very much. We processed more than 2 million disability benefit claims this fiscal year, on track for the most ever. In fact, not even close. We're slashing wait times at the VA medical centers, and we're bringing back VA choice and VA accountability. As you know, we had it, and then the previous administration, let's go with the Biden administration, they decided to get rid of it. And you know, choice is where if you wait in line for an extended period, or you're not going to see a doctor for a while, you have the right to go out and get a doctor, and we'll pay for it, and you get yourself all fixed up real fast. You don't have to wait 6 weeks, 8 weeks, months like they were doing. And VA accountability, I'm very proud of those. We got them passed. Actually, Doug, you were a member of Congress when we did. You helped us a lot. But we got them passed in the legislature, so they're with us forever. And yet Biden found a way to not use them. But VA accountability, that's when we have bad people in the Veterans Association that were taking advantage of people, hurting people, and they weren't in prime time. In prime time, they wouldn't have touched them, but they weren't quite in prime time, and they were doing bad things. They were sadists, they were thieves, and some bad people. We had 9,000 of them. We fired every one of them, and it was a great thing. And then he put some of those people back. I don't know why they did that, but they did it. But we got them out again, I think, Doug, right? So it's good. So we had VA choice, VA accountability, something we're very proud of. I'm also working to keep my promise to end veterans' homelessness in America. In May, I signed an executive order to open the National Center for Warrior Independence in Los Angeles, California, which will house up to 6,000 homeless vets. It's going to be beautiful. And just last week, I signed the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act, a big deal, to help ensure no veteran is kicked out of their home for a late payment. If you're a little bit late, don't worry about it. And frankly, if you're a lot late, you don't have to worry about it either. You just get it in when you can. Get it in when you can. And America's veterans have done their duty for us, and under the Trump administration, we are doing our duty for you, okay? That's the way it's supposed to be. One of our brave soldiers with us today is Army Veteran Specialist Kevin Jensen. In 2008, Specialist Jensen was a gunner in a Humvee racing to support a platoon ambushed by the Taliban in Afghanistan. His vehicle was hit by a roadside bomb, flew 10 feet. He flew 10 feet up into the air and exploded in flames. The whole place was in flames, including, unfortunately, Kevin. But he suffered deep third-degree burns, and all over his body he was in trouble, big trouble. Despite the agony, he selflessly ran to the aid of his platoon leader, who was engulfed, or just absolutely, everyone thought he was gone. He was engulfed in fire. "Sir, I've got you. I've got you, sir," Kevin shouted and pulled his friend to safety. Specialist Jensen earned the Purple Heart, and he's here today with the platoon leader whose life he saved, and our newly sworn-in VA Undersecretary for Medical Affairs, Captain Sam Brown. Kevin and Sam, please stand, and I know Sam very well. Sam is great. What a combination. He's okay, right? Great, Sam. Look good. Thank you very much. You did a great thing because I got to know him and his really beautiful wife. You know, you're not allowed to say beautiful anymore. It's political suicide, they say. But I'll say it anyway. And the most beautiful family you've ever seen. And I just want to thank you for having done, and you for your great bravery. It's really great. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you. Also with us is 24-year Army veteran Brian Willett. In 2010, Staff Sergeant Willett was conducting a resupply mission in Afghanistan when his vehicle was struck by a roadside bomb. You know who did the roadside bomb, right? Salamani. Where is he? Where is he? Where is Salamani? He was the father of the roadside bomb. They say 92% of the people who got either killed or badly hurt, it was Salamani. He was the one that did it more than anybody else by far. Leaving this person very seriously injured 7 months later, Brian's teenage son, Private Kevin Willett, who was also deployed to Afghanistan, was standing guard when insurgent forces attacked with heavy fire. The grenade knocked him out and knocked him right to the ground. He was in big trouble, but Kevin rose to his feet and successfully repulsed the attack on his camp, earning both the Purple Heart and Bronze Star for valor. And I'd like to ask Brian and Kevin to please stand wherever you may be. Hi. How are you? How are you? Good job. Good job. Two great people. I would say these are different types, right? These are different types, right? But same blood, that's all we care for.
He's West Virginia.
It's very good. You both look great. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it. We're also joined by Marine Corps veteran Staff Sergeant Thomas Mateo, wounded 6 times during 2 tours in Vietnam. At the end of his first tour, shrapnel sliced open his abdomen and he was left bleeding and they thought he was gone. He was on the jungle floor for a long period of time, but he recovered and chose to go back and fight. Thomas later continued to protect our citizens as police chief of Hialeah Gardens and Inverness. That's 2 good places. We love those places. We love Florida. Every time I ran there, I won, so I gotta love it, right? Set records. We have the all-time record, Thomas. And he was one of the very rare 6-time recipients of the Purple Heart. Boy, you got hit. Where's Thomas? 6 times? You gotta be kidding. That's pretty tough stuff. And look at you. You look fantastic. So did it have any negative impact on you, would you say, now that you're recovered, fully recovered, would you say? Do you get any extra aches and pains or anything?
2 prosthetic knees, sir.
That's it. That's called the naked of pain. That's right. I know. I have the whole list. It's amazing, and you look great. Thank you very much. That's some list. Thank you. It's amazing. Amazing. Last year, after an assassin tried to take my life in Butler, Pennsylvania, Thomas generously mailed me one of his Purple Hearts. Many of the other veterans showed me the same unbelievable gesture of kindness, including 3-time Purple Heart recipient John Ford and Gerald Enter Jr., who also came along with us and did us a great, great favor. Gerald, John, and Thomas, I want to thank you very much. What a great honor to get those Purple Hearts. I guess in a certain way it wasn't that easy for me either when you think of it, but you went through a lot more than I did, and I appreciate it all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Where are you? Stand up, please. Please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Great. That was someday. That was someday we had together there, huh? That was someday we had together. Thank you both very much. Thank you all. From the very beginning, our nation's fate has depended on heroes like those in the room who placed their bodies between the enemy fire and really that fire and the American freedom that we all love so much. Because of their sacrifice today, our flag is still waving proudly, and our freedom is still safe and secure, and our future is looking brighter and greater than ever. Our country is doing really well. We're very proud of our country. We had that mission. I watched those B-2 bombers with those pilots. We had them in the Oval Office celebrating their incredible bravery and talent, pure talent. Every single bomb hit its mark perfectly. And then we had Tomahawks coming in, 30 of them coming in from submarines that were 300 miles away. They all hit their mark too. Look at this smile on you. You think that's your boy. Hey, look at this smile. But pretty good, right? Pretty good. We had them and we celebrated all together. We actually had 52 tankers. Can you imagine? We had a lot of the people over to the White House, to the gardens, and it was an incredible day. It was a day of celebration. They've been looking to do that for 22 years. One of the pilots came up and said to me, you know, we've been waiting for 22 years, my predecessors, because he was a young guy, but he said, we've been practicing this 3 times a year for 22 years. Who knew that, Pete? And I said, you mean you knew exactly what to do? He said, every single year, 3 times a year, we'd practice for that specific event, and you were the one that had the guts to do it, send us on our way. I said, were you happy or unhappy about the fact that I said, he said, we couldn't get into the planes fast enough, right? I said, well, you guys are different, but they're really talented people and special. We've had some incredible success. But I want to give a very special thanks to all of the Purple Heart recipients that are with us today, and all over the country and all over the world, frankly. And I'll now sign the proclamation officially declaring this as National Purple Heart Day. Very special day. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, brother.
I know who I'm giving this pen to. That guy right there. 6 times. And that is not done by an auto pen.
To let you know what we're following in terms of developing stories right now. We are waiting on an update on 2 troopers that were shot in Pennsylvania during apparently what is now being called a deadly domestic dispute. Now, we're still getting more information from this, and earlier today, Governor Josh Shapiro was the one who broke this news at an event outside of Philadelphia, but describing the shooting as an ambush in some sources in terms of some of the stations that have been reporting on this in that county. So we are getting more information and hope to learn these new developments here in the next 10 minutes or so. Outside from that, we are obviously monitoring a fast-growing fire in Ventura County. They are having a really long heat wave there in California right now. And this is a 600-acre brush fire that was triggered has triggered some evacuations in and around some nearby communities in Santa Clarita Valley, and there's just a high alert amid this major heat wave right now. Obviously, we've seen over the last couple of months just so many issues in California dealing with fire danger, so that continues to this day. So again, it seems like this fire is growing rapidly. Apparently, the National Weather Service's Los Angeles office saying that temperatures rising over 100 degrees today and wind gusts of up to 25 miles per hour. They have not helped things at all. So, Jeb?
Yeah, and I'll add, so I'm actually from the California area. I'm from about 15 minutes south of this fire. This is actually the second massive fire burning in California right now, down in about 2 hours or so north, hour and a half north in Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo. There's a fire right now that has reached about 96,000 acres. For context, that is the largest fire we've seen in California, even bigger than those ones we've seen earlier this year in January. You can see by the visuals here in this picture, I mean, this is a massive fire, and what has been a really destructive fire season I was talking with my dad earlier today, and on his car thermometer, which is also known as a thermistor, it registered at 111 degrees. That's how warm it is right now. And between that and some of those Santa Ana winds, which you've probably heard about, it is making this fire extremely difficult to fight right now. So you can see they have tons of aerial support. And because of the remote location, it's been difficult to actually get ground units, so fire trucks, firefighters, on the scene to battle that fire, which has helped it grow, and especially in this dry area. Luckily, it is near, you can see that lake. So those helicopters, what they're doing, they're flying over the lake, picking up large amounts of water. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water from the local lakes around the fire, and then bringing them to the flames and actually dropping that water over them. And that's just kind of their marching orders until that fire gets put out. You can see, luckily, white smoke. White smoke generally means good when you're looking at a fire, but there are thousands of acres to be controlled here in what has been a seriously dangerous and destructive fire season in Central and Southern California.
All right, so some good insights there from Jeb. And not only are we watching those two situations, but again, we do have a briefing from the State Department that happened earlier today while we watch these two developing incidents. We'll send you to this right now.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. So as normal, I'll start with some remarks up top, and then I'll move to questions after the fact. Today marks the first 200 days of the Trump administration, and with it, 200 days of delivering results and real wins for the American people. Under the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Rubio, the United States is restoring strength, securing prosperity, and standing up for American interests on the world stage. Turning to trade, President Trump has delivered on his promise to rebalance U.S. trade. This week marks the successful conclusion of 8 historic trade agreements with key partners: the European Union, South Korea, Pakistan, Japan, Indonesia, the Philippines, China, and the United Kingdom. Liberating the U.S. economy from decades of failed anti-American trade policies and delivering lasting benefits for American workers and businesses. On global health and humanitarian leadership, the United States is providing an additional $93 million to treat nearly 1 million children suffering from malnutrition with life-saving, ready-to-use therapeutic food, RUTF, from and by American producers. This critical funding will help save lives in 13 countries: Haiti, Mali, Niger, Ethiopia, Sudan, South Sudan, Nigeria, Madagascar, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Kenya, and Chad. Drawing down the entire pre-positioned stock of RUTF and supporting continued production to meet ongoing needs. Moving to the Pacific, this week the United States and the Cook Islands announced a new partnership to advance scientific research and responsible seabed mineral development. As a regional leader, the Cook Islands is at the forefront of sustainable exploration, and the United States is proud to support this shared vision for innovation and mutual prosperity. Finally, turning to Southeast Asia, the United States welcomes today's General Border Committee meeting in Kuala Lumpur as a constructive first step forward in the Cambodia-Thailand ceasefire arrangement. President Trump and Secretary Rubio call on both governments to fully honor their commitments and pursue enduring peace. We welcome Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim for his leadership and we commend Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim for his leadership in facilitating this process and for co-hosting the pivotal July 28 special meeting with the United States. And with that, I'll take some questions. Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. My name is Ali Barada from Al-Sharq Al-Awsat newspaper, and my question is that Lebanon's government today took a very critical decision regarding disarming Hezbollah and to accept, in fact, the U.S. proposal to solidify the cessation of hostilities with Israel. Would you please comment on that?
Yes, what I can say is the United States welcomes the Lebanese government's decision on Tuesday to task the Lebanese armed forces with a plan to bring all weapons under state control by the end of the year. This is an important step towards Lebanese sovereignty. We continue to watch developments in Lebanon very closely. Special Envoy Tom Barrack made it clear what the president needs to see. As long as Hezbollah retains arms, words will not suffice. The Lebanese armed forces must fully commit and act now to fully implement the government's decision. The credibility of Lebanon's government rests on its ability to match principle with practice.
A quick follow-up. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that this decision by the Lebanese government will fail. And I wonder whether you have some comment on that, and also whether you can tell us if Ambassador Barak will visit Lebanon anytime soon.
Well, on that front, I have nothing to preview on that. He's been in discussion with all the players in the region multiple times, as we've discussed publicly here. What I can say again, in terms of your other question, is that we welcome this decision. And like I said at the end of that response, we need to see action match the principle that they're having there. So we need to see practice, not just principle. Yes?
Thank you. My question is about China. While both the US and Chinese leaders are trying to have a summit meeting in the near future, the Russian and Chinese navies carried out joint exercises in the Sea of Japan, including anti-submarine drills. And China continues to purchase Russian oil. So how are you concerned of the China's move that might help Russia? And I have a brief follow-up.
Well, for the specifics, let me take that back and see if we can get further details for you on that. What I can say, though, is we've been clear about how the United States views itself as a Pacific nation. We are a Pacific nation. We've seen the highest levels of engagement with our allies and partners across the region. The fact that we stand with our allies and partners across the region, both the Secretary, of course, going to the region, but other high-level delegations from this department over just the last few weeks. So we've seen that engagement, we've seen that commitment here, and that engagement will continue.
And it's been reported that Indian Prime Minister Modi is set to visit China for the first time in 7 years. And Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has criticized the US tariffs imposed on countries including Brazil and India. So are you concerned that China and other BRICS countries are trying to take the lead in organizing a kind of pushback against US trade measures?
Well, what I can say in terms of India is the president has been very clear in terms of the concerns he has regarding the trade imbalance, regarding the concerns he has when it comes to the purchase of Russian oil. You've seen him take action directly on that, and I refer you to the president's comments for that. India is a strategic partner with whom we engage in a full and frank dialogue. That'll continue. The Secretary also spoke to that. Like anything in foreign policy, you're not going to align 100% of the time on everything. But it is very clear, the president's been clear, the concerns that he has with the trade imbalance, the concern.
All right, we're going to go to the update in the situation in Pennsylvania where 2 troopers were shot.
My name is Christopher Paris, P-A-R-I-S. I'm the Colonel, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police. To my left is District Attorney Marion O'Malley of Susquehanna County, M-A-R-I-O-N-O-M-A-L-L-E-Y. To my right, Lieutenant Colonel Christopher King, K-I-N-G. He is our Deputy Commissioner of Administration and Professional Responsibility. To his right is our Area 3 Commander, Major Norm Kramer, C-R-A-M-E-R. To his right is Major Craig Rodriguez. He is our Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations Director, R-O-D-R-I-G-U-E-Z. To my left, and to the left of District Attorney Marion O'Malley, we have Sergeant Jeremy Carroll, C-A-R-R-O-L-L. He is the station commander of Troop R Gibson, where we are currently, that covers Susquehanna County. And to his left is Captain Mike Walsh, W-A-L-S-H. He is our Troop R commander, which encompasses Lackawanna, Susquehanna, Wayne, and Pike counties. I apologize for the delay in us getting this press conference together. It's been a very tragic and harrowing day for the community here in Susquehanna County and the Pennsylvania State Police. We are still very much involved in an active and ongoing investigation. Our hope here tonight with this briefing is to give you a thumbnail sketch of some of the facts that we're prepared to discuss tonight. I will be speaking, District Attorney Marion O'Malley will be speaking, and then we will defer to the continued operational cycles in the near future to try and fully run down all of the aspects of this incident. So if I can begin by painting a picture for you, Gibson Barracks, where we are, Susquehanna County, was contacted this morning at 11:17 a.m. There was a report made by an individual that shots were fired in the vicinity of the numeric 20141, repeating 20141, State Route 171, Thompson Township, Susquehanna County. And to paint a picture, this is a 2-lane State Route 171 in Thompson Township. It is very rural. That location is one that's of relevance for this incident, but there's also a neighboring property with the numeric of 20034, State Route 171, repeating 20034. And again, these are neighbors, not on the other side of a fence, but several hundred yards away on opposite sides of State Route 171. When the call was received here by Gibson Barracks, it was called in by the boyfriend and cohabitant of our first victim, which I'm going to discuss. Our first victim is Lori Wasco, W-A-S-K-O. Next of kin have been notified. She is deceased. She was 57 years of age. She was a resident of Thompson Township at that first numeric that I discussed, 20141. Her boyfriend and cohabitant called 911 for the reports to report shots fired in that vicinity. Miss Lori Wasco was shot and killed in front of that residence in the general vicinity of her vehicle. Some of these exact locations, I want to be sure that, given at this point in the investigation, we're still very much mapping the scene and trying to identify the exact sequence of events. But she had been shot. 2 troopers were dispatched from PSP Gibson. The first trooper was Trooper Joseph Perechinsky, P-E-R-E-C-H-I-N-S-K-Y, repeating P-E-R-E-C-H-I-N-S-K-Y. He is a member of the Gibson Patrol Unit. His father, Joseph Sr., is the Chief of Police of Mayfield Borough in Lackawanna County. His brother is an officer with Archibald Police, also has a very strong law enforcement family. He has been a trooper for 6 years. He is single. The second trooper is Trooper William Jenkins, J-E-N-K-I III. He's been a trooper for 10 years. He is married and he is a father of 4. I will tell you, both of our troopers currently are stable, and with the help of the continued prayers of the community and their will to continue on, they will be with us, and we are extremely, extremely grateful for that. But back to the timeline of events, at 11:17, when that call came in by Miss Wasco's boyfriend, those 2 troopers responded. They responded along State Route 191 to try and ascertain the location of that threat of shots fired. The troopers made it out of their vehicle, and they were ambushed from a very good distance away. I don't want to quantify that, pending further investigation, but they were ambushed by several rounds of rifle fire from a position of tactical superiority. Trooper Perechinsky was shot twice in the chest/torso area. Trooper Jenkins was shot twice as well, once in each arm. Despite being very severely wounded, Trooper Perechinsky was able to tourniquet both arms of Trooper Jenkins with some further assistance, and their cars where they had arrived and gotten out of were also riddled with gunfire. So I'm not prepared today to speak about how many rounds were actually fired. I do feel confident in saying several dozen rounds were fired in the continuity and the entirety of this incident. So our 2 troopers have been shot. 2 additional troopers were able to come in and evacuate them. We have another victim as well. There was an EMT who was working for Barnes-Casson Hospital, driving a quick response vehicle, an SUV. He proceeded to respond very heroically to the call for shots fired. He was driving on State Route 171 when his vehicle was engaged with gunfire. He took evasive action and veered off the side of the roadway and crashed. He sustained some injury as a result of that crash. He is listed in stable condition as well. He was able to make it out of his vehicle, and he actually hid for fear that the actor would continue firing upon him. So that brings us to our actor, Carmine, C-A-R-M-I-N-E, Faino, F-A-I-N-O, repeating F-A-I-N-O, 61 years of age. Faino is the resident at 20034, so technically he would be a neighbor of Wasco and her live-in longtime boyfriend. However, their properties are separated by several hundred yards. He, we believe at this point, murdered Lori Wasco, and he was the shooter who shot both of our two troopers, as well as who shot at Carl Lawson. Again, Carl Lawson's injuries were a result of the car crash as a result of the evasive action he had to take while his vehicle was taking fire. So this is obviously a very critical incident. Radio traffic went out that shots had been fired, multiple troopers had been hit, and I would like to try and just at this point blanketly say thank you to law enforcement from Susquehanna, Lackawanna, Monroe, and Wyoming counties, all of which responded. At some point later, we will collate a list to specifically acknowledge all of those people who were able to respond. Our two troopers who were shot, who were evacuated from that immediate vicinity along State Route 171, were taken and staged at an area where they were life flighted. So Trooper Parachinsky was life flighted to Geisinger CMC, and Trooper Jenkins was life flighted to Geisinger, Wyoming Valley. They are there. I have been with both of them. They are in good spirits. We have talked to their families, and as I said, we're extremely lucky to have them still with us. They are an answer to a prayer, while we simultaneously mourn the loss of Miss Wasco and think of the her boyfriend and cohabitant, as well as Mr. Lawson. So back to the timeline of this event. The troopers are now, along with local law enforcement from those counties, attempting to set up a hard perimeter around our actor, Faino. He was moving about. We attempted to use a drone, which he shot down actively with a firearm, and we were eventually able to get a secure perimeter around his location. Major Rodriguez's organizational segment, the Bureau of Emergency and Special Operations, encompasses PSP CERT, Special Emergency Response Team. So over a period of time, we were able to hand that secure perimeter, which was being staffed by state troopers and local law enforcement from those counties that I mentioned earlier, to a hard perimeter that CERT was able to take up and again begin their highly trained, high-risk warrant service or barricaded gunman protocols. Well, we attempted at length to try and negotiate with Mr. Faino, our actor here. At one point, I will tell you, he was sitting on a propane tank, which caused further concern that he had attempted to turn that into an improvised explosive device, and we were concerned about other weapons, not only the weapon that he was using a semi-automatic long gun from which he fired several dozen rounds through this incident, but we were also concerned about other explosive devices that he may or may not have deployed at that location. After a period of attempting to negotiate with him, he continued to be a threat, and he was shot by members of the Special Emergency Response Team. He is deceased. So the perimeter still remains, and the processing by the Forensic Services Unit of the State Police is ongoing. We do currently have in place a Area 3 major case team from not only Troop R Dunmore, but also elements from Troop P Wilkes-Barre, Troop F Montoursville, and Troop N Hazleton to bring out the resources to bear to properly process and assess this entire scene. We are conducting a joint investigation with the Susquehanna County District Attorney's Office into the lethal force that was used to neutralize Mr. Faino. At this point, I would like to turn it over to District Attorney Marion O'Malley for a few comments, and then I will retake the podium to finish the briefing and open it up for a few brief questions. It needs not to be said, but I will say it. The Pennsylvania State Police relies on partnerships across the 67 counties of this Commonwealth every day to do the work that we have to do. The partnership that we enjoy here with District Attorney Marion O'Malley is second to none. We appreciate her being here. We appreciate the support that she has given our troopers who were injured, and we appreciate her support every day that she gives as we work for the victims, Ms. Wasco et al. Mentioned in this incident. So with that, I'll turn it over to District Attorney Marion O'Malley.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As indicated, my name is Marion O'Malley. I am the Susquehanna County District Attorney. I want to begin by offering my sincere condolences, not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of every member of my office, to Ms. Wasco and her family. A truly tragic event. She was a member of our community. She was a worthwhile individual. She's someone who gave back to the community, and her loss will be felt by many people. As the Colonel indicated, my primary function here, given the fact that Mr. Fano is now deceased, will be to participate in the investigation and make the determination about the use of force in this case. That will require involvement by several of my county detectives in the investigation, and that will be done jointly with the Pennsylvania State Police. It will not be necessarily members from Gibson, but perhaps another barracks, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So to ensure the objectivity of the investigation, as I know I can always rely on when dealing with the state police. So as the information comes forward, you've heard from the Colonel, and it's absolutely true. This is a fluid situation. All the information has not been ascertained at this point, and it won't be until then that I can truly turn my hands to the report and take a look at what has happened and whether the use of force in this particular case was appropriate. That will take some time, but I know that I have the support of, obviously, the Pennsylvania State Police, as well as the members of my staff who will be working on it with us as well. We are very fortunate today in the sense that these two troopers are still with us. They are more commonly known to me as Bill and Joe. I have worked with both of them. It's a unique opportunity for a rural county district attorney to get to work with all of the law enforcement members of the community because of the number of cases and the fact that it's just not quite as big as our more metropolitan areas. So that's an advantage to me because I get to know who I'm working with and how they work, and they learn to deal with me and how I work. It is a true partnership. These two gentlemen, I will be waiting anxiously for them to return to work, and I hope they do not consider this as an opportunity to avoid court appearances in the near future. So with that having been said, I will turn the podium back over to Colonel.
Thank you, District Attorney O'Malley. A few more points. As per normal PSP protocol, the troopers involved have been placed on administrative duty, as we would in any other officer-involved shooting investigation. As the district attorney alluded, the major case team has been brought in from an area outside of Gibson to ensure that we're doing a full, fair, and competent and thorough joint investigation. Some thank yous, again, I mentioned earlier at the top of the presentation, local law enforcement in Lackawanna, Susquehanna, Wyoming, and Monroe counties, all of whom answered the call for assistance. Several dozen officers and troopers were mustered to this ongoing situation, which was quite harrowing, as I said, for an extended period of time. To those counties and members of their EMS that helped us, as well as the flight crews that flew our troopers, really superb work. To the New York State Police, this organizational segment of Troop R having been a troop commander up here, it is very frequent that we interact and receive support from our sisters and brothers to the north with the Stetson and the purple tie, and they were integral today after the fact in giving us a command post and some additional communication capabilities until we could get that set up. This was an extremely rural area, and we had some obstacles to overcome. So thank you to New York State Police Superintendent Stephen James. The New York State Police are always there for us, and I hope that they know that the inverse is true. So on behalf of Governor Shapiro, who flew in today to both Geisinger CMC and Geisinger Wyoming Valley, we received outreach from many local elected officials as well, expressing their well wishes. The governor and I were able to see both troopers and their families. Moving forward, there will be some additional procedures that both need to undergo. We're going to provide them the support that they need, both mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, through our Members Assistance Program and our chaplaincy program, to ensure that we give them not only the physical care that they need, but also the entire person. And I would say, on a personal note, I know both of the troopers personally. They represent the best of who and what the Pennsylvania State Police are. I spoke to one of the troopers who said as soon as they got out of the car, they had no idea where the rounds came from, and they were basically, under fire. Very, very unfortunately, I have stood at a podium to brief on incidents like this far too many times in my career. Since this administration came in January of 2023, this is our 5th and 6th trooper who have been shot in the line of duty over that 30-plus month period of time. One of those troopers was fatal, and I must say, from a very personal standpoint, despite the fact that we mourn the loss of Miss Wasco, and we hold up the victims also who were shot at, the EMT, Mr. Larson, as well as the victim's live-in boyfriend. I am very thankful tonight that we are not planning a double line of death funeral. So with that, we'd open up to a few brief questions. Sir.
Sir, earlier you said that there was a tactical superiority that Fano had over the two troopers. Do we know if Fano had a military or police background? And two, do you believe that his ambush was premeditated to inflict damage upon the state troopers itself?
So I don't know about his prior history. That's one of the things that we're actually actively working up, his prior life and events leading up to today. When I say superiority, to set the scene, with a semi-automatic long gun, it is a tactical advantage when you have not only the element of surprise but also the element of distance. So you can see our two troopers that the basic information that they had was in this vicinity, shots had been fired, possibly someone was hit. When you go out to an extremely rural area, you can get out and do a 360-degree scan in any direction, and the capabilities of a semi-automatic rifle from a position of tactical superiority, cover, or concealment really pose a chance for the actor, Fano in this case, to get the jump on our people, and for them to react the way that they did, for them to utilize the tourniquets on Trooper Jenkins. I spoke to both of his trauma surgeons. We were complimented as an agency. We carry on our belt per capita tactical tourniquets, and today I believe they not only made the difference for Trooper Jenkins, but again, we're very happy that they're both with us. I'll come back.
Were either of the two troopers wearing a vest when they were hit?
Both were wearing their ballistic vest, but the capabilities of the soft body armor against the long gun are severely depleted.
Do we know what type of round was used?
We will eventually have that, but we know, but I'm not prepared to release that yet. Sir, back to you.
Do you know? So just to clarify, was this a premeditated ambush? Do you believe?
I don't want to speak to his motive leading up to this. I would say you can draw certain conclusions from the standpoint that we believe Fano shot our victim prior to our arrival, and then from a position of tactical advantage, fired dozens and dozens of rounds at two responding state troopers in their state police vehicles, as well as an EMT. I would say it doesn't lend itself to a spur of the moment type decision, at least once he made the decision to open fire. Anyone else? Sir.
Yes.
Sure.
So we had crews all around Susquehanna County today, and one of them actually spoke to a man who says he called PSP yesterday talking about a man with a long gun walking down Route 171. And I was wondering, was that in fact the case? Was there a call yesterday?
At this point, I don't know, and I wouldn't be prepared to say if I did, given the stage where we are actively trying to run everything that we need to know about Faino, not only for his actions today, but leading up to today. All right, we will release more information. Trooper Bob Urban, off to my left here, will push information out. We, again, our heart goes out to Wasco and her family. Mr. Lawson, who was shot at. Our heart and prayers go out to him, coming to answer the call for shots fired, not only for a member of the community today in Wasco, but also 2 Pennsylvania State Troopers. And I'll end where I began, where our thoughts and prayers go out to Troopers Parachinsky and Jenkins and their respective families. They represent, again, the best of who and what we are, and their spirits are high. They are thankful to be where they are today. And again, all of those people, we cannot say thank you enough. We're the beneficiaries rather, of extreme law enforcement partnerships all over this great Commonwealth. We seek to build those on a daily basis. We talk about building those relationships brick by brick, and they pay dividends on days like today. But as a former troop commander and area commander here in the Northeast, it is particularly so up here, and that paid dividends for everybody today. I will tell you again, after those troopers were immediately evac'd, after both had been shot by the 2 additional troopers that came to their aid, one of the 2 troopers, Trooper Parachinsky, was able to commandeer a tractor trailer that was driving by, and he ordered the driver of that tractor trailer to pull his semi-rig across the roadway so that more people would not drive down that roadway and potentially be subjected to the fire that the EMT in Mr. Larson was. Again, shot twice. You put a tourniquet on your fellow trooper on both arms and helped to do so. You triaged and got out of the area, still thinking at that point in time, after being shot twice in the chest, what can I do to secure this location? What can I do to make sure nobody else gets hurt? They're the real story here today. So I'm humbled and proud to serve as the commissioner, and I really appreciate all the thoughts in the community and the prayers. We appreciate it very much.
Commissioner, could I just say one thing?
Sure.
To thank the governor for coming up, so say PSP strong. I'm glad the governor is backing you people the way he does, and thank you for your leadership. And if there's anything that needs to be done to raise money or something, if these troopers need any kind of help, you post it, and I have a site, we'll put it out there. Anything we can do to help the troopers or their families, we gladly will.
Thank you very much. And just a word about that, it need not be said publicly, but I will, to thank the governor for his continued support, not only for our troopers who've been shot, but also the municipal officers across the Commonwealth. He goes, he's physically present, and he cares about law enforcement and tries to give us the very best that he can, along with partners in the legislature in Harrisburg, to give us the tools, the training, and the personnel to meet our mission. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Has Faino been on your radar at all?
I wouldn't be prepared at this point to discuss that, but thank you.
There's one more.
Do you have one more? Sure.
By any chance, you said that Faino was at some kind of propane tank. Was there anything found about propane?
So, in addition to processing the scene, we had our hazardous device and explosives section, HIDES, which also operates under Major Rodriguez's organizational segment of BISO, to clear that out. And we're not in a process, or we're still in the process of fully clearing that area. Any evidence of relevance to today's incident, but also if he had any additional explosive devices. But that has not slowed us down, but has caused us to be very diligent in the way that we're processing the scene in the event that he had prepared an explosive device. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you.
Some interesting revelations from state police there in Pennsylvania, obviously wanting to make sure that they continued to highlight how bad this could have been. You heard the colonel saying that they could have been planning 2 different funerals today for 2 of their troopers who he said resembled the best that they have in Pennsylvania. So some very interesting comments. Now, we didn't know this before, but it sounds like a woman was shot and killed by her neighbor, and that man who is the suspect in this has been killed. But apparently also there was this woman who's killed Lori Waska. Her boyfriend was the person who called 911 to report that shots were fired. And then when Pennsylvania troopers got on scene, that's when this man started to ambush them. And you heard the colonel talk about not only did he have distance, but he was able to kind of see and have a better perspective of these two troopers. And really, it was the quick work of those tourniquets and just the training that they had that really saved both of their lives. He said also that these two troopers' names are Troopers Joseph Parachinsky and William Jenkins, who are in stable condition with some very serious injuries, though he did talk about a long gun being used. And in those type of situations, the entry and exit wounds sometimes can be just catastrophic, which can obviously lead to a mass cause of death or a potentially a worse injury. So obviously, again, highlighting this could have been much worse. But they are lucky to be alive. He's said that multiple times. So more to come from this. Obviously, giving some condolences to the victims' families and also the woman who died. But thanking the governor for making some quick work and coming to the scene and to the aid of Pennsylvania state troopers. We're going to go back to the State Department now and the briefing that was ongoing before we hit that update.
Like a passive player in the Lebanon situation. It's been very active. Going forward, I mean, is the U.S. going to be continue to be a broker? Is it going to take on kind of an enforcer role? I mean, how can you give me a picture of how deeply involved you're going to be going forward here as Lebanon tries to implement, the disarmament of Hezbollah?
Well, obviously, we've seen discussions from the Ambassador Tom Barrack, the Special Envoy in the region. We've also seen comments here on Lebanon from this podium just now and in the past. In terms of our specific role, what I can say is what I said earlier, that we'll continue to watch developments in Lebanon very closely, and that we need to see the practice there match the principle that they have.
One other question. A report today that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation finally secured a meeting with United Nations officials. A, can you confirm that? And B, I know that GHF and the State Department have been calling for cooperation to happen, but never really an idea of what that cooperation would actually look like in practice. Can you give us an idea of what exactly the State Department envisions in a cooperative agreement between GHF and the UN?
Well, I refer you to GHF for more details on meetings they may or not be having with different organizations or the United Nations. What I can say is we've been clear is that we want to see as much aid as possible go to the people of Gaza without it being looted by Hamas. We've been clear that we want to see creative solutions, that there's a mechanism in place that has been able to deliver 110 million meals without it being looted by Hamas. We've also been clear in our concerns about how other different delivery systems have seen issues when it comes to the diversion of aid. So the specifics, we'll see exactly. The president's talked about wanting to see more aid get into Gaza. We've seen, for example, from this podium, talking about how the ambassador and Special Envoy Witkoff have briefed the president after their recent trip to the region. We'll see what specifics come out in terms of future steps, but there are many options being discussed. We want to see as much aid get to the people of Gaza without it being looted by Hamas as possible. Yes.
A question about Europe. It has been reported in the past hours that the United States government has launched a diplomatic campaign targeting the European Union's Digital Services Act. According to this reporting, the United States would be arguing that it's imposing excessive restrictions on free speech. And given the ongoing negotiations between the United States and the European Union, could you confirm that that campaign is active, and what would be the main motivation and the outcome that the United States would like to see regarding the DSA?
In terms of negotiations, are you referring to trade on that front?
Yeah.
So in terms of specifics on the trade negotiations, I refer you to USTR, the White House, and those directly involved in those negotiations. We have been clear from the beginning of this administration the importance this administration places on free speech. That is something that the Vice President spoke to in Munich when he said democracy rests on the sacred principle that the voice of the people matters. We shouldn't be afraid of our people even when they express views that disagree with their leadership. This has been an honest and frank conversation that we have been having with our partners in Europe around the world, the importance that we place on free speech, and that importance is going to continue. Yes.
Thank you. Asking about President Trump and the potential summit with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, I know White House officials have said that for that meeting to take place, Putin needs to be willing to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But I was wondering, can you put a fine point on that? Is there any world in which this summit between President Trump and President Putin can happen without Putin agreeing to a Zelensky meeting as well?
Well, I'm going to refer you to the White House on that one for details on the president's schedule. What I can say is looking backwards, as the Secretary has described, we have been in continual communication with our partners in Europe, continual communication with Ukraine. Our ultimate goal is to end this conflict, get the parties to the table, see the ceasefire and the long and enduring peace. But for details on the president's schedule, I'll refer you to the White House. Yes?
I'm Rachel with Lily Broadcasting. Good to see you. In regards to Ukraine, does the Secretary have any maybe scheduling a chance meeting with his counterpart, with Ukrainian officials, or with any Russian officials?
I have nothing to preview in terms of the schedule at this point.
Okay, and then Hugh, real quick on Haiti. You mentioned that millions of dollars are going to go towards the malnutrition problem in Haiti. However, the State Department could potentially deport thousands of people, Haitians that are currently residing in the United States, back to Haiti. There's still political instability there. What does the State Department have to say about that?
Well, look, we've seen actions from this administration in order to try to encourage stability in Haiti. We've seen actions, announcements taken to try to go after those that are leading to instability in Haiti, announcements the Secretary himself has made. We see this aid from American producers, by American producers, going to these 13 countries. For specifics on TPS, I assume that you're talking about, I refer you to DHS in terms of those specific decisions. But we have seen actions here from the State Department to try to encourage stability in Haiti. We've seen, again, this announcement of aid going to Haiti and other countries as well.
Thank you.
Yes?
Tommy, apologies.
It is tough. My phone sometimes autocorrects to Tammy nowadays, so my own phone does it. I don't know.
Follow up on Russia, Ukraine again. What is your level of trust to Putin that he is not, engaging in another delaying tactic here? And how over-optimistic, or a little bit over-optimistic for us to expect anything out of this meeting, potential meeting?
Well, it's not a question of trust, it's a question of actions. The president has described how he's been disappointed in the actions that we have seen from Russia over recent weeks. He's talked about seeing actions, not just words. He's described that himself. So this is not a question of trust per se, this is a question of seeing actions to match up the words, but also is indicative of the commitment that we have made clear from the beginning of this administration, that we stand ready to aid in the pursuit of peace, to try to end this conflict, stop the carnage. That is our driving policy here. That remains our driving policy. And getting the sides to the table is key to reaching a diplomatic solution to this conflict. So it's not about trust, it's about action, and it's about doing everything we can to aid in the pursuit of peace and bring this war to an end.
I want to follow up on Russia again. Today marks 17 years since Russia invaded Georgia. They are, holding Georgian land. They are successfully seems to have implanted their pro-Russian government that is cracking down against Georgian, opposition, civil society. So, do you have any comment on both, Russian occupation and also Georgian government's behavior?
The United States Embassy in Georgia put out a statement. I refer you to that statement for further details there. Yes.
Hey, following up once again on Russia, Ukraine, you talk about the goal of a peaceful solution. What's at stake if we can't get that peaceful solution from a potential upcoming meeting, if negotiations go nowhere?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on what may come out of these meetings. I'm not going to predict the future. What I can talk about, again, is our commitment now, what we have done, what we continue to do, engagement at the highest levels of this administration to try to end this conflict and stop the carnage. We stand ready, like I said, to aid in the pursuit of peace. We continue to do that. So I'm not going to speculate or predict the future, but I can talk about that commitment we've seen already and continue to see. Yes?
Thank you. On the West Bank. I'm sorry? Okay. Again, thank you, Tom. On the West Bank, it's been much in the news. We've seen legislators go and visit the settlements and so on, illegal settlements, talk about settlement. We know that the Speaker of the House was shown actually a plan for annexation. Now, a group of Israeli academicians issued a paper. They said that the West Bank is actually being annexed very quietly and so on. And the settlers are targeting some villages where a lot of Palestinian Americans go because they go and they build homes and so on to basically discourage development of the West Bank. My question to you, what kind of designation do you assign to the Palestinians in the West Bank and under occupation? Are they an occupied people? What status do they have? Do they occupy, let's say, they have autonomy, partial autonomy, whatever. So can you please give us, if you have a position on what designations the Palestinians have in the West Bank? We'd like to hear it.
Well, the position that we do have is that we want to see a stable West Bank that keeps Israel secure and is in line with this administration's goal to achieve peace in the region. Within the short term, we remain focused on ending the war in Gaza. And then once we have broader discussions in terms of what we may see that leads to longer peace and prosperity in the region, I'm not going to preview those here. But we have continually decried violence in the West Bank from this podium and elsewhere, no matter who commits it. And we want to see a stable West Bank that, again, keeps in line, keeps Israel secure and is in line with our ultimate goal to see a prosperous region.
Now, the family of Khamis Ayad, who the Palestinian American that was killed last week, have requested the State Department or the U.S. government to investigate the circumstance of his death. He died as a result of fire and smoke inhalation that was started by the settlers. Have you talked to the Israelis about this? Do you have any results? Do you trust their investigation?
Well, look, I refer you to comments that spokesperson Tammy Bruce made at this podium just a few days ago. I'll also repeat here that we have no higher priority than the safety and security of the American people.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Thomas. I have two questions. One is related to Europe and the relationship with the U.S. So we've seen in the war in Ukraine a big division in Europe and the inability to sort it out. And how much the issue that we're seeing in Europe, this division, forced the President of the United States to take it over and say, hey, I have to deal with this and try to meet Putin, because the European were unable to kind of put on the table Zelensky and Putin.
Well, the President has been clear he wants to see our European partners step up in a variety of different areas. We saw, for example, the recent NATO deal in terms of weapons being sold to NATO, and then they can then give those weapons to who they wish. The President is a deal maker, as the Secretary was describing just yesterday. He is a deal maker, and he's able to reach deals on behalf of the American people, but then also that lead to a safer world. So the President stands ready, like I said, to aid in the pursuit of this peace, but he has also been clear that we need to see our European partners stepping up in terms of defense spending, in terms of a whole variety of other measures here. And that remains in terms of needing to see our European partners also step up.
Yeah, and if I can ask you on the other front, will the United States will be involved in on the Gaza and Israeli situation beside the humanitarian foundation? Are there in place any other plan to try to bring this war to an end beside diplomacy?
Well, so I'm not going to preview what decision the President may make. I already described how he was briefed following the trip, Special Envoy Witkoff and Ambassador Huckabee. There's been several different options that have been discussed. The main driver here is creative solutions. We want to see creative solutions, and we want to see a mechanism in place that delivers aid to the people of Gaza without it being looted by Hamas, without seeing aid diversion. That is the primary goal that we're having here. That's what we want to see. And we've been calling for creative solutions in order to get to that end. We've supported the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation because that mechanism, it is a mechanism in which that has been allowed to happen. 110 million meals that have been delivered to the people of Gaza without it being diverted or looted, stolen by Hamas. So we're continuing to call for creative solutions. We want to see more people involved. We want to see partnerships, but based under a mechanism that allows aid to reach the people that need it.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask two questions. First, just following up on your topper. Can you tell us a little bit more about when you expect the RUTF to actually move? And can you clarify, is this the same food aid that was previously frozen as part of the review?
Well, we had another announcement on food aid. I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to there specifically, but there have been two recent announcements on food. What I can say in terms of this proposal is that this proposal is for 11,285 additional metric tons of RUTF under this award. In terms of these commodities are currently held in warehouses operated by the RUTF, and they're produced by producers in Rhode Island or Georgia. The details of this specific procurement are sensitive. It is ongoing. We've announced this intent to have the $93 million worth of drawing down and an additional procurement. When we have additional information in terms of exact timing, we can provide it.
Sorry, Tommy,
and can I have one more on?
Say that on this specifically, this is stuff that is, your comment said that you're drawing down the entire stock of pre-positioned supplies.
And then replacing it as well. So it's
yeah. But all of this stock that you're distributing, this 11,285 tons, was actually purchased and sent to these warehouses in the previous administration. Is that right?
Well, I'll find out exactly when it was sent. I know that there's the 11,285 additional metric tons. So in terms of the breakdown of how much of that is additional versus pre-positioned, I can't speak to
Well,
now.
you said it was additional, an additional 93 million. Okay.
Yes, excuse me, that was request for proposals to producers for the additional 11,285 metric tons.
So that's all going to be new.
That was the request for proposal for additional metric tons. That is what I have here in terms of making sure I get you the exact specifics on the numbers.
I just want to know if this is food assistance that this administration has put into these warehouses, or if it was food assistance that was put in under the previous administration, some of which, as we know, was destroyed.
Yeah, so as I was going through the numbers, I do have a breakdown here. Beautiful benefit of having some notes here. So the entire pre-positioned stock of RUTF is 1,209 metric tons, but the funding will also be used to order the production of an additional 11,285 metric tons.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on the one other? Now that the Israeli Prime Minister has confirmed in a Fox interview his intention to occupy all of Gaza, can you speak a little bit more on the U.S. position on this? Do you see this as a way that is helpful to secure the release of the hostages still being held there and to see humanitarian aid flow?
Well, what I can speak to is our policy and our initiatives here. And our three focuses, as the Secretary outlined yesterday, remain getting humanitarian aid into Gaza without it being looted by Hamas, remains seeing the hostages released, and remains making sure that Hamas cannot continue to exist, because there can be no long-term prosperity with Hamas as a governing force or otherwise within Gaza. So that's what our policy is, that's where our focus is, that's what I can speak to. For further details on Israel's policy, I would refer you to the government of Israel. Yes?
Thank you, Tommy. I wanted to follow up on my colleague's question about India, because I understand we've certainly heard, as you mentioned, the president's frustration and upset about India purchasing Russian oil, but we've seen a longer-term tension, it seems, rising in U.S.-India relationship. We saw Indian officials back in May who were upset about the president talking publicly about a role in having brokered a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. We saw the meeting with the Prime Minister of India that was supposed to take place at the G7 in June canceled because the president had to leave early to return to Washington, and now this tension over tariffs. Is there a concern from this department or the secretary about an overall worsening in the relationship with India and the potential for India to be turning more to China and away from the U.S. at a time when the U.S. looks to India, has been looking for many years to India as a partner?
Well, what this is about is an honest, full, and frank dialogue about real concerns that this administration has, that the president has outlined very clearly, addressing those concerns through his actions. He's spoken about them, whether it's about purchase of Russian oil, whether it's about the trade imbalance. Addressing those concerns is important, and that's part of what it means to have a frank dialogue, to address those concerns that you have, and then hopefully have conversations to see those concerns addressed. So the president's been very clear. His concerns about what he has seen from India speak for themselves. He's truthed multiple times about it. But ultimately, this is about a frank and full dialogue, and that's what it means to advance American interests. That's what it means to really have full diplomatic dialogue with partners to address concerns that we need to see addressed.
Come to the back of the room.
Yes.
Thanks. Earlier today,
President Truth, and this is how we call it, right, Truth, that he was hoping that all Arab nations would join the Abraham Accords. Do you have concern that Israel's decision to take over Gaza completely will, if not delay, really kind of jeopardize the ability to move forward with the Abraham Accords?
Well, I'm not going to predict the future or speak for the opinions of other governments. What I can say is that President Trump is a deal maker. President Trump wants to see peace and constructive dialogue. He knows how to make a deal. He knows how to bring people to the table. That has been evident both in the previous administration when we saw the beginning of the Abraham Accords, and now the Abraham Accords then being something that many people thought would not have been possible, and yet he still was able to accomplish that with many different nations joining the Abraham Accords. So I think what's clear is that the president can accomplish what many people think is not possible. I'm not going to predict the future or speculate on how others may view certain actions, but the president remains committed on this. He's made that clear. Yes.
Thank you. In his interview yesterday, Secretary Rubio made it clear that of Russia and Ukraine, the U.S. would have to bring them close enough in order for a meeting involving President Trump to be worthwhile and productive. As of right now, are they close enough?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of what the White House may announce here. I mean, ultimately, the Secretary laid out saying that that was one of the things that they were discussing here when we're looking towards a potential meeting or other sort of engagement. So I will leave that to the White House or the President to decide when that happens and take his lead here. And it is a credit to his leadership that we've seen the engagement we have seen, the parties come to the table when they have come to the table, and the further engagement to try to pursue peace here.
Assuming they are not close enough and there is no ceasefire in place by tomorrow, which was the previously stated deadline in order to forestall sanctions by the U.S., are sanctions going to be imposed tomorrow, either secondary or any other sort?
A lot of speculation involved there. I'm not going to speculate from here.
It was a pretty hard deadline by the president, and administration officials have indicated they were expected to be put in place.
Well, as you said, assuming, that's kind of where I draw the line in terms of speculation. I'll refer to the White House to speak more to the president and defer to the president. I want to get ahead of him, but not going to speculate from here.
One last finer point question. Secretary also in this interview indicated that Special Envoy Witkoff heard from the Russians about what they were asking for in order to bring an end to the war. Did they put any concessions on the table?
Well, as the Secretary described in his interview yesterday, we saw conditions, which is the first time, as he described, that we have seen some of these conditions that would be needed to see an end to this war. I'll leave it to him to characterize what we saw from the Russians, and conditions is the word that he used.
The human rights report. Thank you so much. Tommy, 2 questions on Syria. As President Trump has instructed the State Department to review the removal of Syria's sponsor of terrorism status, will that happen soon? And what would that mean in terms of sanctions?
Sorry, repeat your question one more time.
Yeah. President Trump has instructed the State Department to review the removal of the Syrian sponsor of terrorism status. Will that happen soon? And what would that mean in terms of sanctions?
Well, I'm not going to preview the finalization of certain sanctions announcements. When we have something to announce, we'll announce it. What I can say, as the President has said, as Special Envoy Barrack has said, as the Secretary has said, we want to give Syria a chance for greatness. And that Syria is at a critical crossroads here when it comes to the ability to achieve that. So we continue in dialogue here. We continue having the conversations with all different stakeholders in the region. When we have something to announce, we'll announce it.
And the second question, as you are mediating the negotiation between the Syrian Democratic Forces and the Syrian government, have you seen any progress in these negotiations recently? And last week, Tammy said that the U.S. position has not changed on the evolution of these negotiations. Can you clarify that whether the U.S. dictating the Syrians and SDF in these negotiations, or if you are leaving that for the Syrians to make decision if they want a federal state or if they want to have a centralized state?
Well, Special Envoy Barrack has spoken about this. I'm not going to go further than his comments in terms of talking about sensitive conversations between different parties. I refer you to his comments on more detail there. Yes, Michelle in the back.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm sitting way back. Can you explain why the State Department is rewriting the human rights report? I understand it's coming out soon, but it's been changed, and you're dropping certain things like LGBTQ rights. Just explain why.
Yeah, what I can say is that this human rights report, in terms of the one that is set to come, just for people watching at home, is set to talk about 2024. It is a series of reports for different countries. Part of the reason why we are seeing an effort to readjust this is to make it more readable, to make it more digestible, and also to reflect some of the changing priorities that we've seen from the previous administration to this one, priorities that were voted by the American people, and we at the State Department are here to carry out and fulfill. So we're seeing an ongoing conversation, and in regards to that, we're seeing an effort in order to try to make this more usable, more readable, while also reflecting the changing priorities of this administration compared to the last one.
So it's always in the past seen as not a political thing. I mean, it's you're judging people based on human rights law, and but does this mean that you see it as a political tool?
No, not at all. I mean, we have seen changes in the previous administration when President Biden took office, changes in terms of different examples that are used. Speaking of past reports, the examples in these reports are oftentimes illustrative. Highlights of ways that we want to concerns we want to raise or conversations we want to have. So no, it's more of just making sure that we're implementing the policy and priority of this administration. It's not political in terms of how that was described. Yes.
Questions on Azerbaijan and Armenia. First, there are reports that the trilateral summit Friday at the White House with Azerbaijan and Armenian leaders will result in the signing of an initial peace deal. Can you confirm? Could you please elaborate on that? And also, could you please clarify the U.S. position on this Zangezur corridor, this transit corridor?
Well, on that second point, let me see if I can get you more details there. On your first, I refer you to the White House for details on what will happen. It may or may not be happening.
And on Turkey, like how do you see Turkey's role in this? We know that Turkish President Erdogan recently, both separately, met both with Armenian and Azerbaijan leaders. You know, how does the U.S. see Turkey's role in this peace process, and also generally overall its role in post-conflict regional order?
Well, what I can say is that both the President and the Secretary have said we hope to see, speaking in general, some sort of agreement soon. They both said that multiple times. The Secretary often talks about this when he has the opportunity. When there's something to announce, we'll announce it. In terms of the specifics of how that looks, when we have something to announce in terms of specifics, I'm not going to speculate or get ahead of those announcements at this time. Yes. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Ravana from Power Agency. U.S. Ambassador to Uzbekistan, Mr. Jonathan Hennick, said that it's the best time for Donald Trump to visit Central Asia. I know you don't speak for President, but this year is 10th anniversary of C5+1 platform, where Central Asian 5 countries engage with United States to make the relationship more fruitful. So do you have any plans to do for this year, because it's already August and we have like 3 months left? Anything planned for United States and Central Asia cooperation?
Well, nothing to preview at this point in terms of scheduling there. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Nazira Karimi. I'm Afghan journalist. I have 2 questions, sir. One question is any update about the U.S. policy toward Taliban regime. Number 2, Foreign Minister of Taliban had a plan to visit Pakistan. There is rumor that United States stopped him, prevented his visa. Is it true? And my second question, President Trump said we are going to help Afghan allies to come to the United States, the people who has a SIV visa. Which kind of help U.S. authority will prepare for them? Because a lot of them waiting in Doha, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Pakistan, and different part of country.
So a couple questions there.
Thank you.
I believe on your second regarding Pakistan, I'm not going to comment on rumors from this
Visas,
podium.
Muttaqis visas.
Yes, so I'm not going to comment on rumors from this podium. In terms of your question on SIVs, we see a continual processing of SIVs. That processing has continued. That has continued for many, many years. We have seen that because of the initiatives that President Trump was talking about. So the SIV processing has continued. We expect that to continue, but also we're seeing many hundreds of those visas being processed as we go forward here. So nothing further beyond that. The processing for SIVs for Afghans has continued.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to ask about Serbia. Secretary Rubio had a meeting with Serbian officials yesterday. Can you please provide some details beyond the readouts that I'm familiar with, specifically on Secretary Rubio's broader plans for U.S.-Serbia relations and the strategic policy framework surrounding the engagement? Like, what's the goal for the State Department when it comes to Serbia? Is it the beginning of a new chapter? Is it not? What do you have for me?
Well, nothing further to provide beyond the readout, so I'll refer you to that readout for further information. And with that, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
All right, so some interesting updates there on many things there at the State Department. Some good information for us to have here on WCNC Plus. We do want to go to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, providing an update just this morning on the probe into a fatal shooting just this spring outside the Capitol Jewish Museum. And it really surrounds the suspect Elias Rodriguez, who is accused of gunning down an Israeli embassy, 2 different staffers outside this Washington museum on May 21st. Let's go to this now.
First of all, I think you know who I am. I'm Janine Ferris-Piro. I am now the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. And on May 22nd, I stood at this very podium to announce the initial charging of Elias Rodriguez, 31 years old, of Chicago, Illinois, to a community that was reeling because of one person's actions. Today, we in the United States Attorney's Office continue our journey to seek justice for not only 2, but 4 victims of this horrific crime, which has had enormous consequences and repercussions, not just in the district, but nationwide and worldwide. Not only affecting these victims and their families, but opening old wounds and re-victimizing victims of past anti-Semitism. Now, a few facts. On May 20 of 2025, Elias Rodriguez traveled from Chicago, Illinois, to Washington, D.C., and brought with him a 9mm semi-automatic weapon. While on the plane, he traveled across multiple state lines and drafted a manifesto called an explication on his iPhone. His explication made clear his purpose in committing these crimes that I'm about to read to you was to demonstrate his hatred for the people of Israel. The next day, on the afternoon of May 21, he purchased a ticket to attend a young diplomat's reception sponsored by the American Jewish Committee at the Capitol Jewish Museum, located just 2 blocks from here on 3rd Street in Northwest D.C. Now, the American Jewish Committee, of course, supports Israel and its right to exist in peace and security. That very same night, he watched as people left the reception. When he saw the 4 victims in this case, all of whom were from the Israeli embassy, he crossed the street, he opened fire, killing first Yaron Lashinsky, then killing Sarah Milgram, and when firing these fatal shots, he yelled, "Free Palestine." After he killed Yaron and Sarah, he entered the Capitol Jewish Museum, pulled out a red keffiyeh, and yelled, "I did it for Palestine," after which he was arrested. Now, a D.C. grand jury has charged in this indictment 2 hate crimes, alleging that he murdered Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram because of his bias against the people of Israel. He demonstrated this hatred through his words, "death to Israel," and his violent actions against Yaron and Sarah and their co-workers from the Israeli embassy. He also posted one of his postings on social media, "Please, please, please, God, please, vaporize every Israeli." And now to the charges. A grand jury in the District of Columbia has indicted Elias Rodriguez in a 9-count indictment with the following crimes. Count 1, murder of a foreign official under 18 U.S.C. 1116 for the murder of 30-year-old Yaron Lashinsky, a foreign official employed by the government of Israel. Counts 2 and 3 are hate crimes resulting in death under 18 U.S.C. 249, where the defendant crossed state lines, willfully caused bodily injury to Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram because of actual as well as perceived national origin, which resulted in both of their deaths. Counts 4 and 5, the discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence causing the death of a person through the use of a firearm. The defendant knowingly used, carried, and discharged a firearm during and in relation to a crime of violence, and with malice aforethought, he did unlawfully kill Yaron and Sarah with a firearm. Counts 6 and 7, first-degree murder while armed. Under the defendant, Rodriguez, with deliberate and premeditated malice, killed Yaron and Sarah by shooting each with a firearm, thereby causing injuries from which each died. Counts 8 and 9, assault with intent to kill while armed with a firearm. He assaulted CS and AT, those are initials, with intent to kill a person. Attached to this indictment are further findings of the grand jury. It's designated as a notice of special findings under 18 U.S.C. 3591 and 92. This begins the statutory process and whether to seek the death penalty. This is a weighty decision. It takes time. There will be a rigorous process, after which the capital case section in the Attorney General's office will advise the Attorney General, and the Attorney General herself will make a decision regarding whether or not this office will seek death against Elias Rodriguez. In that regard, I think it's important to identify a specific special finding, and I direct your attention to, I believe it's paragraph 28. Rodriguez committed an offense against Sarah Milgram in an especially heinous and cruel and depraved manner, in that it involved serious physical abuse to Sarah Milgram, who was particularly vulnerable due to infirmity. Now, let me close by saying that prior to speaking to you today, I spoke with the parents of Yaron Lashinsky, as well as Sarah Milgram. The parents of Yaron are in Israel. Sarah's parents are in the United States. These are people who are broken because of one man's actions. These are people who should have been in-laws, but because of one man's action, they will never be able to celebrate a marriage that was intended or the grandchildren that would have resulted. The families want to thank the prosecutors in my office. They want to thank the FBI, the MPD, and all of the people in the Attorney General's office who have worked on this case, and they wanted me to send that message. And now I want to make something perfectly clear. Violence against anyone in this district will not be tolerated, especially violence which has hate at its core and is the genesis of violence. The president put me here to do a job, to clean up the district, to make sure that crime doesn't overshadow this phenomenal city, our nation's capital. And I have throughout my career fought anti-Semitism for 32 years as a prosecutor and a judge. I do so. I fight hate crimes with a vengeance. So don't even think about targeting people in this district because of who they are or because of where they're from. I promise you, justice will be swift and it will be certain. And I will work furiously and diligently with my phenomenal staff to make sure that we prosecute every one of these cases. This is the nation's capital. This is where we celebrate unity. Hate has no place, but justice will rule. And now I want to call upon Harmeet Dillon to my right. She is the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. You may know her, and I want to thank her and her division for helping us on this. Harmeet?
Thank you, Judge Janine, for your remarks and for your diligent work of your office on this matter. It is my weighty responsibility under federal law to certify any hate crime charges at the federal level in the United States, and we did that in this case with alacrity. The Civil Rights Division remains unwavering in the same commitment that you just heard from Judge Janine. Namely, there will be a zero-tolerance policy in this district and in these United States for any hate-motivated violence, including in this case on the basis of actual and or perceived national origin. The community in question has been reeling from a stream of violence that has been occurring in these United States for almost 2 years now. To those who seek to inflict further pain and suffering on Israeli communities, we will use every legal tool at our disposal to hold them accountable for these actions and deter future actions. The Civil Rights Division is committed to ensuring that every community in these United States is safe from violence, intimidation, and discrimination, as in this case. No one in America should fear for their life because of their faith, religion, ethnicity, or national origin. This indictment reflects our ongoing commitment to hold these criminals accountable, and we will continue to relentlessly pursue justice for Yaron and Sarah, their families, and their communities. I hope this beginning of this process brings some comfort to the many people in this community who have approached the Department of Justice and expressed their deep concern for their safety. I think no one can claim that this is not a serious problem here in our district right now, and it is embarrassing as an American to see that. Next, I'm going to introduce FBI District of Columbia Field Office Criminal Division Special Agent in Charge, Reed Davis.
Thank you, Judge Pirro. Thank you, AG Dillon. Good morning. My name is Reed Davis. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for the Washington Field Office Criminal Division. Today's announcement is a major step forward in our partners in the FBI's efforts to seek justice for the victims and the families of the horrific act at the Capitol Jewish Museum on May 21st. Since that tragic night, our FBI and DOJ victim specialists have forged relationships with the surviving victims and the families of the young couple who were ruthlessly murdered. They have maintained close contact and kept them apprised of significant investigative milestones in the case, and these victim specialists will remain in contact with the families until justice is served. FBI investigation to date indicates that the subject acted alone with the intent to commit a violent act in the District of Columbia. Based on his writings and communications, we believe he was a lone wolf actor, motivated by anti-Zionist and pro-Palestine ideology, with the goal of conducting a mass shooting to call attention to his political agenda. We wouldn't be at this stage without the significant support of our partners on the Washington Field Office Joint Terrorism Task Force, including the Metropolitan Police Department, the Diplomatic Security Service, the U.S. Capitol Police, and many others who have left no stone unturned in this investigation. The FBI field offices across the country also provided vital support, especially our Chicago field office, which conducted numerous interviews. In addition, we are extremely grateful to the members of the D.C. community who shared video footage of the subject's movements. We continue to seek information from the public relevant to this case and others, as we see the spread of ideology-motivated violence and mass casualty events across the nation. Taking violent action in support of one's political or personal beliefs is abhorrent, it's unacceptable, and the FBI will rigorously investigate and aggressively pursue those who choose to do so. Our work is not done. This indictment is the next step towards justice, and we'll continue to support the prosecution of the subject through our investigation. And now more than ever, we need the public to be vigilant and report to law enforcement any concerns they may have of an individual who may be considering violent actions. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to MPD Assistant Chief Rami Kyle.
Good morning. I'm Assistant Chief Rami Kyle of the Investigative Services Bureau at the Metropolitan Police Department. Since our officers apprehended Elias Rodriguez and recovered the murder weapon moments after the shooting, our homicide detectives have tirelessly pursued justice. MPD has a solemn obligation of investigating every homicide occurring in the District of Columbia, a duty we do not take lightly. Our detectives work closely with our partners at the FBI Washington Field Office. As this case progressed and as the investigation traveled outside of our city and outside of our jurisdiction. The charges unveiled here this morning underscore our collective commitment to ensuring Rodriguez faces the maximum punishment possible. Calling this a shooting alone doesn't begin to describe the vicious and hateful attack. Rodriguez traveled halfway across the country, came to our city, with the intent to murder people simply because of who they are, what they believed, and where they came from. Hate has no place in our community. We continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with all those impacted by the loss of Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram. MPD strongly supports the religious community here in Washington, D.C. We have maintained a heightened presence at religious institutions, and we are in regular contact with leaders of all faiths and work to safeguard our houses of worship. As always, we remind our community to remain vigilant and immediately report any suspicious activity. I want to commend the dozens of MPD officers and fellow first responders that rushed to the Capitol Jewish Museum that night. These brave men and women, they did not know the nature of the threat they were running toward and acted swiftly to take this suspect into custody. I want to thank our partners here at the United States Attorney's Office and the FBI Washington Field Office for their commitment to pursuing justice. Every agency involved in this investigation has worked together seamlessly from the very beginning. And lastly, I want to express our gratitude to our local community for providing tips and video that helped our detectives with this case. I also want to thank our community for supporting our Jewish community in the face of this awful tragedy. Thank you, and I'll now turn it back to Judge Pirro.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions?
Can you clarify as far as the death penalty is concerned? I'm unclear. Are you recommending to the Attorney General that the DOJ go ahead with this death penalty designation? Or is this something that you're saying flat out that you're seeking the death penalty?
Okay. Thank you for the question. And what the special findings attached to the indictment, and if you get a copy of the indictment, you'll find it, is an indication that there is a process that we are considering right now. And the Department of Justice has a very rigorous internal process for determining and reviewing cases to determine whether the death penalty is appropriate. The capital case section is responsible for conducting the review. The includes an examination of all the evidence and of the charges. The defendant is allowed to submit information for consideration by the capital case section as well, which is one of the reasons that we attach these special findings. Once this review is completed, it is then that the Attorney General will determine whether or not to authorize my office to seek death. So the simple question, or the simple answer to your important question is, we are starting the process. We've made no decision yet. Yes, sir.
Judge Pirro, go ahead, sir.
There's been reporting, in addition, after an attack earlier this week on a Trump administration DOJ official, that the Trump administration was making plans to increase federal law enforcement throughout the city. Can you confirm if that's accurate and what your office is aware of?
You know, my understanding is that both the Trump administration as well as the Metropolitan Police Department are looking to increase law enforcement efforts because of the violence we're seeing across this country, across this city. I'm not sure specifically what you're referring to, but we just have too much crime.
I just wanted to ask you.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's a new FBI report that says that anti-Semitic crimes have gone up 70%. This is the highest number against any religious group. Given your announcement today, do you envision any enhanced prosecution efforts, deterrence efforts? Give us some context about that.
Look, I think your question is an important one, and it makes it clear that we have a problem with anti-Semitism in this country, and the statistics bear that out. And I think now more than ever, we are seeing increased numbers. So what does that mean? What it means, if you can get from, my tone, we're going to be very aggressive. You heard from the FBI, the MPD. We're going to look for these cases. We're going to prosecute these cases to the full force of the law. It's a problem, and we're not going to tolerate it. Anti-Semitism has historically been one of the biggest scabs in the world that keeps getting picked on and picked at. So from my perspective, I will go forward with every case with vengeance.
Judge Pirro, do you support a federal takeover of Washington, D.C.? as the president has suggested?
Yeah, that is a decision for the president. And I think that what the president was saying is that we're seeing far too much crime being committed by young people, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, that I can't get my hands on. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures, but, you know, young people are coddled. And they don't need to be coddled anymore. They need to be held accountable. They shouldn't be going to arts and crafts in family court. They need to understand that enough is enough, and that the D.C. Council has to repeal some of these absurd ordinances and laws that they've had passed that do nothing to protect the people of this city and of this district. And I will reference a case that I wrote an op-ed piece on that I've been talking about for weeks. A young person gets on a bus with an illegal gun. There is a family on the bus. He makes a decision to shoot someone in the chest. To me, that's intent to kill. But for the grace of God, that individual did not die. Now, he's got a gun. It's illegal. He used the gun. Guess what the sentence was? I got a conviction. The sentence was probation. We can't have that. And by the way, he wasn't a kid. He was 19. These are the rules of the D.C. Council. They've got to be changed. We've got to have the ability to let young people know that they're going to be accountable. And if you look at some of these pictures of these kids being beaten by crews and bloodied up, and you want to tell me that, you know, it's only a kid who did it, no. Take a look at the bloodied up face and body, and you'll know that it's more than little kids doing this kind of thing.
Are you trying to get your office to take over what Brian Schwab is doing? Do you want to take over juvenile justice here in the city?
I'm not trying to do anything vis-a-vis Brian Schwab. All I want to do is clean up D.C. That's why the president put me here. And youth crime is on the rise. In the last 4 years, we've had 150,000 cases of youth violence, okay, 4 years ago. Now it's close to 500,000 cases of youth violence. We've got D.C. as one of the highest murder rates in the country. So we can talk about crime going down, but going down from where? So, I mean, this is something that is a whole other issue. Today is about this indictment and making sure that if you intend to commit a crime of anti-Semitism or hate, we're coming for you.
Judge, you spoke to Yaron and Sarah's parents. Have they taken a position on whether they want the Justice Department to seek the death penalty? And separately, Steve Jensen was supposed to be up there alongside you announcing this today, but he's been fired. Do you have any explanation why?
Okay. I'm going to talk about Sarah and Yaron's parents. I spoke to them, and I told them that the process is beginning, that they will have an opportunity and a right to put their input into what decision is ultimately made. Okay, and I'm not going to talk about politics today. I'm talking about crime, and I'm talking about hate crimes, and that's the extent of it. Okay.
This other reporter was asking the question. There's word that there are going to be more federal law enforcement, including perhaps National Guard, on the streets of D.C. today and tomorrow as a result of some of this recent violence. What is your reaction, or can Assistant Chief Kyle speak to that?
I know that there is an effort to increase law enforcement based upon what we've seen. But I also know that today is about the Lashimskis and Sarah and 2 other victims whose lives are forever changed because of one individual's decision to come to this city and create a ripple effect that has rippled throughout the world. And that's enough on the other stuff. Okay?
Could we ask Assistant Chief Kyle for his reaction to that? More federal law enforcement. Could you come to the microphone?
I'd rather we talk about Lashinsky. You could call him later.
Judge Bureau,
I'm done.
A follow-up on the cases. You mentioned specifically Rodriguez's actions towards Sarah being the reason why you would. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I know you mentioned it during your.
No, I can't. That will come out at trial. But I refer you to that part of the special findings. It's horrific. Thank you all very much. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Let's go.
All right, after leaving this, we're going to go now to this next conversation with Apple CEO Tim Cook. I do believe just happened today. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, across America about Trump's tariffs that took effect for a lot of countries just last night, and how that's been impacting certain companies. And in some respects, specifically with vehicles and Ford Motor Company saying that they've had to pay pretty hefty prices over the last couple of months due to some of these tariff hikes. So today, Tim Cook actually convincing the president to talk a little bit more about iPhones, what they're going to invest in here in America, and what they can start making here within the United States. Let's go to this now.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you very much. You know this gentleman, one of the truly great legends of our time, my book. Before we begin, I'd like to say a few words about the shooting at Fort Stewart in Georgia. As you know, 5 people were seriously wounded and 2 very, very seriously hurt around 11 o'clock this morning. The shooter is now in custody, and the Army Criminal Investigation Division is on site to ensure that the perpetrator of this atrocity, which is exactly what it is, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The entire nation is praying for the victims and their families, and hopefully they'll fully recover, and we can put this chapter behind, but we're not going to forget what happened. I'm going to take very good care of this person that did this, horrible person. This afternoon, we're pleased to welcome to the White House one of the great and most esteemed business leaders and geniuses and innovators anywhere in the world, Apple CEO Tim Cook. It's an amazing job. Thanks as well to Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick for being here, wherever you may be. Oh, there you are. Hello, fellas. I missed you. Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest. And this is the largest investment Apple has ever made in America and anywhere else. And it's just an honor to have you. As you know, Apple's been an investor in other countries a little bit. I won't say which ones, but a couple. And they're coming home. $600 billion, it's the biggest there is. The company is also unveiling its ambitious new American manufacturing program, which will bring factories and assembly lines across our country, all roaring to life. Areas that were not doing so well are doing very well. We have about $17 trillion coming into the United States, which is more than ever before. That's never even come close. There's never been anything like it. Even you, that's even a lot of money for you. But we have commitments of more than $17 trillion. That was as of a couple of weeks ago. These investments will directly create more than 20,000 brand new American jobs and many thousands more at the Apple suppliers like Corning, Broadcom, Texas Instruments, and Samsung, who all deal in that world. As part of this historic commitment, Apple will massively increase spending on its domestic supply chain for the iPhone and will build the largest and most sophisticated smart glass production line in the world in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, which is a great, actually, I did very well there. I like it because I see I did very well there. I did very well in Kentucky, but it's a great place. You're going to be very happy. I thought maybe while we're up, I'll interrupt my own speech by you might show them a little bit about the product that you're going to be doing in Kentucky, Tim.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I step over?
Yes, please.
This box was made in the U.S., California, and this glass comes off the authority line. It's engraved for President Trump. It's a unique unit of one. It was designed by a U.S. Marine Corps corporal, a former one, that works at Apple now.
Looks good. He's done well.
Designed it for you. And the base comes from Utah and is 24 karat gold. And it sits, I'll take the liberty of setting it up.
Wow.
Well, let's see. There we go. Congratulations,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
President.
It's
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
The great people of Kentucky. You're going to find it a great place to do business, too. It's fantastic. Isn't that nice? We're doing these things now in the United States instead of other countries, faraway countries. This is a significant step toward the ultimate goal of ensuring that iPhones sold in the United States of America also are made in America. With the mass infusion of capital it's announcing today, Apple will also build a 250,000 square foot server manufacturing facility in Houston and invest billions of dollars to construct data centers across the country from North Carolina to Iowa to Oregon. That's big stuff. Apple will also open state-of-the-art manufacturing economy. It's going to be a manufacturing academy in Detroit, and that's a great place to do. Well, you know, big things are happening in Michigan and Detroit. They're coming in because of what we've done with the, I call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill. I added one word, great. But we have probably the biggest, most comprehensive piece of legislation ever passed. It's going to mean unbelievable numbers of jobs and no jobs on, think of this, whether it's tips or overtime or Social Security, no tax. So no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And there's just a small bit of it. For Apple and others businesses, we're talking about the deductions and all of the things. And actually for people that go out and buy a car, first time it's ever been done, we talk about deductions for companies, but they're going to be able to deduct interest when they borrow money to buy a car if it's made in America. It has to be made in America. So it is amazing. And one of the reasons I think I can say that Apple's coming here is the legislation we just passed with this kind of investment. Apple will also open other facilities, rare earth magnets from Texas, and build, oh, I love that you're doing this. I love that. I love that. And build a brand new rare earth recycling line in Mountain Pass, California. I know that area. That's where they have a lot of truly rare earth. That's fantastic. I love that. And Apple will help develop and manufacture semiconductors and semiconductor equipment in Texas, Utah, Arizona, and New York. For years, Americans have watched as many of our leading tech giants built their factories overseas and exported American jobs abroad. But under the Trump administration, we're doing everything possible to make this the best place on earth to build a factory or grow businesses. I'm allowing them to build electric producing plants with their factory, because otherwise they'd have to hook into the grid. And I think it's one of the biggest things we've done, where you can build, Tim, your own electricity. You become your own electric manufacturer, and that goes along with the plant. So you become a utility. So congratulations, now you're in the utility. I hope they don't value your.
All right, that's going to do it for our last 2 hours here on WCNC Plus for our live Impact News show here. Of course, download WCNC Plus wherever you stream. Tell your friends and family. We'll see you tonight at 11.